Chapter 1671. Let me ask you. Jingyu stepped forward, looked at Zhuji and asked, when you were attacked by the wolves, did you hear anything else? Zhuji suddenly heard Jingyu's question and immediately laughed. I didn't want to talk about this because I felt that you wouldn't believe me even if I said it, but you asked yourself. You must know something, right? Zhuji's pair of dark eyes stared at Jingyu as he asked. I know a lot. It just depends on whether what you say is what I want to hear. Jingyu wasn't affected at all and said calmly. Someone is manipulating the wolves. Zhuji stared at Jingyu as if he wanted to see through Jingyu's veil, but it didn't happen. Hee. Jingyu chuckled and looked at Zhuji without speaking. This man's thoughts were really heavy. He suddenly threw out such a sentence. It was nothing more than wanting to get information from her. But since you think so, I won't let you have your way. You're so sure? Did you see it? Zhuji's original intention was indeed to get information from her, but he didn't expect that Jingyu wouldn't fall for it at all. Instead, she asked a question that made Zhuji's face twitch violently. This woman is really not simple. No wonder Pang Shuwei was looking at her face. Miss is really smart. Zhuji smiled indifferently. He knew that he was being saved and couldn't help but lower his head. He thought for a moment and said, I did see it and I saw it clearly. What did you see? Jingyu heard Zhuji's words and her heart jumped. She frowned and asked. I saw two people enduring it. Zhuji said faintly, at that time, the wolf pack suddenly attacked and no one was prepared. In the chaos, of course, no one noticed the music floating in the sky. No one saw the two people standing quietly behind the pack of wolves. Even though they were so far away, I could still see them clearly. After Zhuji finished speaking, his eyes were full of seriousness as he continued, as for whether you believe it or not, it's up to you. Of course I believe it. Jingyu slowly narrowed her eyes and said, after such a big thing happened, young Master Zhu should rest well. You already knew, didn't you? Zhuji suddenly spoke up, his pair of dark eyes staring fixedly at Jingyu as he asked. Young Master Zhu should worry about yourself. Jingyu's tone didn't change at all. She said very calmly, I'm afraid there will be a hard battle tonight. Whether you live or die will depend on young Master Zhu's fortune. If you don't rest well, we won't have extra people to save you. Jingyu said this very calmly and turned to leave. When Zhuji heard Jingyu's words, his hands clenched tightly. He looked sideways at the water bottle that Pang Shuwei had just put aside. His body paused slightly as if he was silent for a moment, but he still reached out to pick up the water bottle and took a big gulp of water. Jingyu's words made Zhuji know that if he didn't want Pang Shuwei's charity, he would be waiting for death. But he didn't want to die yet. Those disgusting people abandoned him and let the wolves eat him. If he didn't take revenge, how could those people live happily? Chapter 1672. As Zhuji thought about it, he clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with viciousness. When Jingyu turned her head, she saw this scene. Looking at Zhuji's appearance, the corners of her mouth curled up very calmly. If this person was used well, he would be a sharp weapon to kill people. He's so smart and so ruthless. Not bad. If it was up to Jingyu, she really admired Zhuji. What, you like her? As soon as Jingyu finished speaking, she heard a leisurely voice beside her. It was filled with jealousy and made Jingyu speechless. She turned to look at Xiao Chen and saw Xiao Chen's slightly downturned lips. It was as if he was telling Jingyu about his unhappiness. Jingyu poked Xiao Chen's chest helplessly and said, Why are you jealous? This king isn't jealous. Xiao Chen said seriously with a straight face, I just saw the royal concubine talking to a stranger for so long and he even called you miss? Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's expression and laughed out loud. This person was really interesting. He even talked about this king and called her royal concubine. Jingyu's eyes were filled with a faint smile. What? Are you very happy? When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's laughter, his voice turned cold. Jingyu quickly reached out and hugged Xiao Chen's neck, saying, Tell me, what do you want me to do so that you won't be angry? Do your hair properly. Xiao Chen stared coldly at Jingyu and said, That simple? Jingyu nodded silently and looked at Xiao Chen as she asked. You're not allowed to talk to other men. Xiao Chen said again. Hey. Jing Yu poked Xiao Chen's chest unhappily and said, "Can you be reasonable?" Xiao Chen didn't say anything and just looked at Jing Yu silently. This made Jing Yu speechless. Looking at Xiao Chen's expression, did he explode with all the unhappiness from the past few days? Or could it be, actually, men also had a few days every month? I'm talking to someone. If I'm not going to ask, then you can go. Jing Yu spread her hands calmly and said, "Go say something nice or beat around the bush." Go. I'm not going. Xiao Chen turned his head away in disgust. Look at you. Jing Yu stared at Xiao Chen and said, "You're not going to say it, and you're not letting me say it. What should I do? If we don't know anything, how can we do it?" Jing Yu blinked and looked at Xiao Chen. Is it really that troublesome? Xiao Chen thought about it carefully and asked with a conflicted expression. Of course it is. Jing Yu nodded seriously and said, "So, I'm really just doing business." Xiao Chen looked very reluctant. Jing Yu hugged Xiao Chen and talked for a long time before Xiao Chen reluctantly agreed. Jing Yu deeply felt tired of coaxing people and silently tied up her hair. Because Jing Yu really didn't learn how to tie up hair in ancient times, the hair she tied up was really not good. Shangguan Linglong couldn't stand it anymore and volunteered to help Jing Yu do a very simple hairstyle. Chapter 1673. Jing Yu looked at her coiled hair and asked Shangguan Linglong in surprise, "I really couldn't tell that you had such an ability." "All in all, you're still too stupid," Shangguan Linglong said proudly. "You're so proud." Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglong indifferently and said, "Who asked me to be born with a good life? You stinky girl, I helped you coiled your hair out of kindness and you still say that I have the life of a maid. See if I don't cut off your hair." Shangguan Linglong said and pounced on Jing Yu with bared fangs and brandished claws. Jing Yu screamed and hurriedly dodged. Amidst the merriment, the sky had completely darkened. The bonfire was lit and everyone sat around the bonfire, chatting as they watched the sky darken bit by bit. Their eyes were tinged with a faint tinge of worry. They escaped a calamity last night, but it seemed like they wouldn't be able to escape today. They just didn't know what would happen next. The night deepened little by little and the chatter and laughter became much softer. Only the sound of the dry wood burning in the fire continued. Jing Yu leaned slightly on Xiao Chen and closed her eyes. Everything seemed so peaceful, but all the peace was broken the moment Jing Yu opened her eyes. Jing Yu's originally closed eyes suddenly opened. Her pair of golden-green eyes shone with a demonic light under the veil. Jing Yu suddenly stood up and faced the night wind, feeling a desolate killing intent. "The wolf is coming." Shuji slowly stood up and gripped the bayonet tightly in his hand. His pair of sinister eyes stared into the distance. In the dark night, footsteps sounded and everyone stood up. Light the fire. The expression on Jing Yu's face was incomparably silent. With a clear shout, everyone lit up the torches in their hands. The moment the torches lit up, the entire sky was instantly illuminated. At the same time, everyone could see the surrounding scenery. Under the illumination of the torches, what was revealed was an incomparably clear pack of wolves. Under the illumination of the fire, the pack of wolves approached step by step. There were so many of them that this scene made everyone's eyes fill with astonishment. Hiss! Even Zhuji sucked in a breath of cold air and said in horror, "All the wolves are here, right? What's coming is coming." After the initial shock, Jing Yu appeared to have calmed down a lot. She slowly curled the corners of her lips and saw that the approaching pack of wolves had also stopped in their tracks. The two groups of people were eyeing each other covetously. It was as if they were waiting for the other party to attack. Jing Yu had been listening attentively to the movements outside. Finally, after hearing what seemed like an incomparably melodious flute sound from the sky, Jing Yu didn't even have the chance to identify where the flute sound was coming from. She saw that the wolves that were ready to attack suddenly charged forward ferociously. It's indeed the people from the sound attack aristocratic family. Jing Yu's expression suddenly changed. The bayonet in her hand stabbed out fiercely. With a torch in one hand and a bayonet in the other, she charged directly into the pack of wolves. "Kill them for me." Jing Yu's aura was so fierce that it didn't seem like she would retreat at all. When Zhuji and Pang Shuwei saw Jing Yu's group charging towards the pack of wolves, they raised their bayonets and sliced open the stomachs of the wolves that were pouncing over. Chapter 1674. Suddenly, the fear in everyone's hearts seemed to vanish in an instant. Their fighting spirit was aroused in an instant. The bayonets in their hands were unceremoniously slashed over. It was incomparably ferocious, and the momentum was so terrifying. Who said that they had to run when they saw a pack of wolves? It was not impossible to fight them head-on. At this moment, everyone had the same thought in their minds. Zhuji's eyes lit up. This method of killing was not weak at all. The brandishing of the bayonet and the torches that frightened the wolves made them retreat step by step. Xiao Chen. Jing Yu called out to Xiao Chen, and Xiao Chen instantly understood what Jing Yu meant. He suddenly turned around and faced Jing Yu back to back. The wolves surrounded everyone, and this was the only way to ensure that they would not be seriously injured. When everyone saw Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's actions, Shangguan Linglan and Xing Yi followed suit. Suddenly, everyone faced back to back and killed the hungry wolves. Under the attack of Jing Yu and the others, the desert wolves seemed to sense danger and instantly wanted to retreat. However, when these wolves retreated slightly, a very melodious music suddenly sounded in the sky. How could Jing Yu not be familiar with this music? The moment she heard this music, Jing Yu's body suddenly stiffened. She swallowed slightly and tried her best to ignore this music. Are you okay? Xiao Chen knew that this music was a disaster for Jing Yu, so when he heard this music, he immediately looked at Jing Yu nervously. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his eyes were filled with deep worry. I'm fine. Jing Yu slowly shook her head and said, "This music is not directed at me," and, as Jing Yu spoke, she listened carefully. She seemed to have sensed another meaning in the music. She curled her lips mockingly and continued, "This music doesn't have any control over me. It seems that the person who played this music is not familiar with it." When Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu's words, he was slightly puzzled. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, he frowned slightly and said, "You mean nothing? Help me keep watch. I'll look for the alpha wolf." Jing Yu said to Xiao Chen. She narrowed her eyes when she saw that those who originally wanted to retreat had once again rushed forward after hearing the music. In the darkness of the night, Jing Yu's golden-green eyes, which were hidden under the light veil, shone with a demonic light. The originally pitch-black night did not seem to be stressful for Jing Yu. She stared at the wolves and began to search bit by bit. Probably because the wolves were controlled by the music, the command team seemed to be a little scattered. Jing Yu searched twice with all her might, but she still could not find the alpha wolf. She frowned slightly. As time passed, everyone's physical strength could not hold on any longer. However, these wolves became even more ferocious. Zhuji fiercely touched the blood on his face. He could not understand why there were so many wolves. It was more than 3 times the number of wolves they encountered yesterday. Zhuji's face was full of seriousness. He already had thoughts of retreating, but when he turned his head, he saw that Jing Yu's people were still happily killing and had no intention of retreating. Just as Zhuji turned his head, a wolf suddenly bit him from behind. Chapter 1675. Damned Beast. Before Zhuji could do anything, Pang Shuwei had already rushed over. He viciously stabbed the desert wolf's stomach with a knife, and the desert wolf fell to the ground. "What are you waiting for? Kill!" Pang Shuwei roared and started killing again. Zhuji was slightly taken aback as he looked at Pang Shuwei's back. At this moment, he suddenly felt his heart tremble violently. Back then, those people had wanted to abandon him, but now, his enemy had disregarded everything and saved him. How ironic was this? Zhuji viciously chopped a wolf that had pounced on him to death. His eyes were filled with a vicious glint. "If someone respects me, I will return the favor tenfold." Zhuji's heart was very clear about who deserved to die and who he should protect. Jing Yu did not notice what was happening here. Finally, on Jing Yu's 4th laborious search, she finally saw the alpha wolf crawling among the pack of wolves. Immediately, Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint light. Linglan. Xing. Jing Yu called out in a clear voice. Immediately, the people on both sides responded and all of them moved closer to Jing Yu. They protected Jing Yu and rushed towards the pack of wolves as if they did not care about their lives. Pang Shiwei, He Xiong and the others saw Jing Yu's actions and immediately broke out in a cold sweat. They had no idea what to do now. They did not know why Jing Yu was courting death. Their bodies trembled violently and they took a deep breath. They continued to stand on the spot and fend off the pack of wolves. In the time that they had known each other, Jing Yu had never done anything wrong. Now that Jing Yu was doing this, she must have had her own reasons. Everyone thought so. On the other side, Jing Yu quietly approached the alpha wolf, pretending that she did not notice it at all. As she dealt with the wolves, she pretended that she had been bitten the moment a wolf pounced on her. He threw his body out fiercely. The body that was thrown out was supposed to stop, but now it did not stop at all. It directly rushed towards the wolf. The wolf had always thought that it had hidden very well. However, it did not expect that in this instant, Jing Yu's body would leap over so quickly. In an instant, the bayonet in her hand ruthlessly pierced the alpha wolf's skull. Her technique was clean and efficient, and her strength was merciless. The wolf's body didn't even move as it fell straight to the ground. The moment the wolf fell, Jing Yu mercilessly pulled out the bayonet and chopped off the wolf's head. The sand wolves that were attacking suddenly looked as if they had seen something terrifying and their bodies suddenly bent down. Just as Jing Yu raised the wolf's head, she suddenly heard the sound of a musical instrument. This musical instrument was so clear that Jing Yu suddenly turned around and threw the bayonet in her hand without thinking. The bayonet hit the sand, but it did not stop the bayonet from flying out. The bayonet directly pierced through the sand and ruthlessly pierced the shoulder of a person behind the sand. Second brother. The petite woman only felt a strong murderous aura coming towards her. Before she even realized what was going on, she suddenly saw that the man beside her was injured. Chapter 1676. The music stopped abruptly. Let's go. After the man let out a muffled groan, he reached out and pulled out the bayonet on his shoulder. Without thinking, he pulled the little girl and ran away. Without the protection of the alpha wolf and the control of the music, after a few struggles, the desert wolves turned around and ran away. The desert wolves ran extremely fast and disappeared in an instant. After Xiao Chen killed the last desert wolf, he raised the torch in his hand and looked at the figure slowly walking out of the darkness. The veil on her head was stained red with blood. She was dressed in black and held a wolf's head in her hand. Under everyone's gaze, Jing Yu coldly threw the wolf's head on the ground. After a dull thud, she said calmly, "We won." At this moment, the surroundings were deathly silent. Everyone's eyes fell upon Jing Yu, and then they looked at the wolf's head that Jing Yu had chopped off. Someone cried out in surprise, and then he laughed loudly. More and more people started laughing as well. Ha! This is too fucking awesome. We won. We actually defeated the pack of wolves? Quick, pinch me and see if I'm dreaming. It hurts. Haha. This is real. There were cheers all around. No one expected that they would be able to defeat the pack of wolves. Originally, everyone was prepared to run to their deaths. But now, no one took a step back. They even moved forward, probably because of the girl's cry of "kill." There was only forward, no retreat. Everyone's eyes were filled with joy. Their laughter was so pure that Jing Yu also slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She killed all these people without exposing her other pupils. Jing Yu slowly breathed a sigh of relief. "Follow me," Jing Yu said to Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglan. Everyone looked at each other and followed behind Jing Yu. They held the torches in their hands and walked towards the hill not far away. Then, they circled behind the sand and saw the two pairs of footprints that were originally standing there. The blood-stained bayonet was also thrown on the fool's head. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with a dignified look. Looking at the size of the footprint, she frowned. "Madame Xiao, what happened?" Pang Shiwei, He Xiong, Zhuo Ji, and the rest saw Jing Yu's actions and walked over. "When I was killing the wolf head just now, I discovered that someone was playing music to control the wolves, so I threw out the bayonet in my hand. As expected, it hurt someone, but unfortunately, that person ran away. As Jingyu spoke, she pointed at the blood-stained bayonet that was thrown to the side. What? Pang Shiwei and the rest instantly widened their eyes in horror and said, "Someone is controlling the pack of wolves? No wonder I thought I heard the sound of a flute just now. I thought I was hallucinating." Yes, I heard it too. As soon as Pang Shiwei's words fell, half of the people immediately said that they heard it. The majority of the people were confused. Clearly, it was because of the pack of wolves or some other reason that they didn't hear it. Good heavens! Who is so powerful that they can actually control the pack of wolves? He Xiong's eyes widened in shock as he asked. If one or two people said that they heard the sound of a flute, they would probably say that they were hallucinating. Chapter 1677. But now that so many people said they heard it, there must be a problem. Everyone frowned. Speaking of manipulating wolves, I have heard from the older generation that there was such a sect in the desert back then. Zhuji said slowly, the people of this sect learned sound attacks and beast-controlling arts. At that time, they were very popular and no one dared to provoke them. They were sought after by all the major forces and the imperial court. They became the supreme overlord in a short period of time. But as the saying goes, the higher you are, the harder you fall. Zhuji continued, not long after, the people of this sound attack family met with a natural disaster. It was said that the entire sect was destroyed. There was such a thing. When He Xiong heard Zhuji's words, he widened his eyes and said in shock, "That's right, these people are the so-called people of the sound attack family." Jingyu smiled faintly and said, "The people who came out this time seem to be two children. Looking at the footprints, one of them is a girl." It seems that Mrs. Xiao isn't surprised at all? Zhuji narrowed his eyes and looked at Jingyu. "Of course I'm not surprised." Jingyu casually bent down and picked up the bayonet. She looked at the crowd indifferently and said, "The reason I came to the desert is for the sound attack aristocratic family. I said that I don't want anything. The reason is simple. I want to save my friend, who is also his wife, from the hands of these people from the sound attack family." Jingyu turned her eyes slightly to look at White Nine. When everyone heard Jingyu's words, they were slightly stunned. Only Pang Shiwei and He Xiong weren't surprised because Jingyu said that she wanted to save someone. She just didn't say who she wanted to save and where she was going to save them. But now they knew that she wanted to save someone from the hands of the sound attack family. I've known for a long time that the sound attack aristocratic family on this continent hasn't disappeared, but I didn't know where they were hiding. Not long ago, I finally found out that the sound attack aristocratic family was hiding in Sand City in the desert. Originally, we were prepared to come early in the morning, but we didn't expect that when White Nine's health improved, there would be news of the treasure. I thought that it would disturb me, but I didn't expect that it would help me a lot. Jingyu spoke very calmly, as if she just wanted to tell everyone what had happened. "That's my goal. We won't be able to cross this area by ourselves. We're just taking what we need." Jingyu looked at everyone quietly and said, "You guys go find your treasures, and I'll go save my people. That's all." "Madam Xiao, that's not right." Pang Shiwei stood up and said, "You've helped us so much along the way. If it weren't for your advice, we would have been killed by those big forces. Moreover, if it weren't for Madam Xiao, we would have lost our lives when facing the wolf pack. These people from the musical attack aristocratic family have gone too far. We must go and seek justice." Pang Shiwei said in a powerful and resonant voice. "Just because they can tame beasts, they want to send us all into the mouth of the wolves. We must go and explain it clearly." As soon as Pang Shiwei said this, everyone began to shout arrogantly. After one person said this, everyone began to say the same thing. Chapter 1678. They actually kidnapped people. This is truly unforgivable. Voices of condemnation sounded. Jingyu had expected this, but it was also unexpected to Jingyu. Right now, the most important thing is to find the Sand City. Jingyu didn't take much action in response to the cries of the crowd. As for what to do after finding the Sand City, let's wait until we get there first. Jingyu said calmly. Everyone nodded in agreement. After a tiring night, they finally worked until dawn. Although they killed a lot of wolves, there were also casualties on their side. After that, it was Chingu and Kuer's job. The two of them were busy helping everyone bandage their wounds. Jing Yu also suffered minor injuries. Her arm was scratched by a wolf's claw. Xiao Chun couldn't help but frown when he saw this. He then helped Jing Yu bandage her wound. By the time the corpses and the injured were cleaned up, the sky was completely bright. Just as Jing Yu was still bandaging her wound, she suddenly saw Zhuoji walking over. She frowned slightly and put down her bandaged sleeve. She frowned slightly at Zhuoji's approach. Seeing Zhuoji like this, Jing Yu knew that Zhuoji must know something. "Young Master Zhuo, what's the matter?" Jing Yu calmly asked Zhuoji to sit down. "What's your purpose?" Zhuoji didn't waste any time and went straight to the point. He looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen and asked, "Didn't we make our purpose very clear?" Jing Yu chuckled and said, "I said a while ago that we came to save people. Does young Master Zhuo think that I'm lying?" "Let's not beat around the bush." Zhuoji chuckled and said, "Pang Shiwei and the others don't know who you are, but I do. The famous 9 emperors and the Empress of Strange Pupils are among us. If you don't come up with a convincing excuse, I really can't believe you." Even if Zhuoji knew Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's identity, he didn't seem to be afraid at all. He even dared to speak in such a tone. This really made Jing Yu very surprised. "I'm telling the truth." Jing Yu smiled faintly and said, "From the beginning, we didn't want to hide it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have said our real names." Jing Yu's words fell, but Zhuoji still silently looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen. "All right," Jing Yu said helplessly. "We don't mean any harm. We are indeed here to save people. Since young Master Zhuo knows who we are, then you must be familiar with what we've done, right?" Jing Yu said as if she was telling a story. "Back then, I was chased out of the Tokyo because of my strange pupils. I fled all the way to Jinling's Roman forest. The battle there made Yi Shui and I become close friends. The Holy Family and the Poison Sect pressured us step by step. In the end, they even invited people from Yaojiang and the Sound Attack family, catching us off guard." Jing Yu slowly clenched her fists and said, "The people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family took Yi Shui away. Because Yi Shui was a person who was lost in the outside world, Yi Shui was taken away. I have been searching for her and the Sound Attack aristocratic family until I found her here." Chapter 1679. Jing Yu looked at Zhuoji quietly and said, "You know that sound attacks can control beasts. You also know that abnormal pupils can control beasts. So, I will tell you clearly that only one of us can survive. Either the Sound Attack family is destroyed, or I, Jing Yu, die. So, not only do I want to save Yi Shui, I also want the Sound Attack to disappear completely. If the Sound Attack doesn't disappear, then it will be the biggest threat to me." Jing Yu's words smashed heavily into Zhuoji's heart. Immediately, all the things he didn't understand became clear. "So, you are hiding to avoid the Sound Attack family search?" Zhuoji asked with a slight frown. "That's right." Jing Yu nodded slowly and said, "I want to save Yi Shui, but I don't know what the Sound Attack family will do to Yi Shui. If I act rashly, I'm afraid it will ruin everything. So, I'm using your cover to search for Sand City." "I understand." Zhuoji nodded slowly. He stared at Jing Yu and said, "It really is a case of each taking what they need. Can you be at ease now?" Jing Yu spread her hands helplessly and said, "I thought you hated Pang Shiwei to the core. I didn't expect you to care so much. I just don't want to be stabbed in the back." Zhuoji stood up and looked at Jing Yu. "Especially when it comes to you guys, I have to be careful. But since things are out in the open, things are simple. I know you guys want to fish in troubled waters." There was a sinister smile in Zhuoji's eyes as he said, "Don't worry. If you help this group of people like this, if it really comes to a critical moment, these people will definitely not stand by and watch. Wasn't this your plan from the beginning?" "Young Master Zhuo is really smart." Jing Yu sighed and said, "Pang Shiwei has a brother like you. It seems like he can live for a few more years." "Who is his brother?" Zhuoji said with disdain. Then he walked away with a cold expression. It wasn't clear if he was angry at Jingyu for saying that Pang Shuwei was too stupid to live for long, or if he was angry at himself for saying that he was Pang Shuwei's brother. It should be the former. Jingyu smiled as she thought of this. She turned to look at Xiao Chen and asked, "Did I say too much? If you don't say anything, I'm afraid that this person will keep an eye on you for the rest of the journey." Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze from Zhuji and replied calmly, "That's right." When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she happily raised her eyebrows and asked, "I said so much because I needed to. I definitely didn't want to talk to him." "You're not angry, are you?" "Since when have I ever been angry?" Xiao Chen asked in a serious tone. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, her expression suddenly froze. Looking at Xiao Chen's serious expression, she almost laughed out loud. Who was the one who was so jealous during the day? After one night, he refused to admit it. When this man was unreasonable, a woman would definitely feel ashamed of her inferiority. Jingyu smiled and looked at Xiao Chen with a wronged expression. She said, "You didn't protect me well. Look, I'm injured. It hurts." Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu's raised hand and frowned. He said, "No matter how painful it is, you deserve it. Who told you to charge forward without a care for your life?" Xiao Chen said as he stared at Jingyu with disdain. Chapter 1680. You scolded me. Jingyu felt even more wronged. I was wrong. When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's wronged words, his heart softened. He reached out and hugged Jingyu as he apologized profusely. Jingyu, who was wearing a veil, smiled when she was comforted by Xiao Chen. She buried her head in Xiao Chen's chest and heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Chen said calmly, "Don't hide and laugh. I saw everything." Jingyu lifted her head from Xiao Chen's chest and said, "I'm wearing a veil. See? You are indeed laughing." Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu, who was pointing at her veil, and his eyes were full of smiles as he spoke. "Xiao Chen." Jingyu immediately realized that she had been tricked. She glared at Xiao Chen angrily. Just as she was about to explode, she heard Pang Shuwei and the others calling for them to set off. Xiao Chen jumped away and called for everyone to set off. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen angrily and turned to leave. However, she had only taken 2 steps when Xiao Chen hugged her tightly and they played happily for a while. Then, they continued to drive forward. Jingyu played with the bayonet in her hand and thought of the 2 footprints she saw. One of the footprints clearly belonged to a woman, but the 2 of them were not adults. She just didn't expect that the people from the Sound Attack family would send 2 children. What was the meaning of this? Jingyu thought about it for a long time but still couldn't understand. Now that she had injured one of them, she didn't know what kind of damage this family would cause. But thinking about it, she hadn't revealed that she had other pupils. Even if this person from the aristocratic family of Sound Attack were to bring word back, he would probably be a very powerful person. As long as she didn't have other pupils, Jingyu was absolutely confident that this person from the aristocratic family of Sound Attack wouldn't be ruthless. That meant that she still had time. When Jingyu thought of this, she immediately became happy, and the corners of her mouth curved into a faint smile. They hadn't rested for a long time. Finally, they walked out of the place where the wolves gathered. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. When the sun set, everyone stopped to rest and watched the afterglow of the sun disappear bit by bit. Everyone started a bonfire again. Someone took out a large piece of wolf meat and roasted it over the fire. There was no more wine, so they had to save some water. Everyone ate the wolf meat to their heart's content. This was the fruit of victory. Everyone ate to their heart's content while telling delightful jokes. Jingyu looked at these people's carefree expressions and said, "Let's end this quickly. We have to find Little Potato and take him to see the scenery of this continent." Xiao Chen nodded silently. He could clearly hear the deep longing in Jingyu's voice. Jingyu looked at the dusky sky and seemed to think of something. She frowned slightly and said, "Xiao Bai and the others are behind us. I don't know where they are now." Jingyu looked at Shangguan Linglan as she said this. According to the distance, Xiao Bai should be about to reach the place where we collect the resin. Shangguan Linglan estimated for a moment and said slowly, "Okay." Jingyu nodded and said, "If that's the case, we'll be able to make it in time." If the sound attack aristocratic family has any special methods, we'll be able to hold on when Big Brother and Xiao Bai's army arrives. Chapter 1681. Yes. Xiao Chen nodded slowly. For the next 2 days, Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others continued to move forward. On this day, when they climbed up a sand dune, their eyes widened and they exclaimed in surprise. What's wrong? Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others were following behind the group. When they suddenly saw the group stop and everyone gasp, they were shocked and quickly went forward. Jing Yu thought that something big had happened. However, when Jing Yu stood on the sand dune and saw the scenery in front of her, she gasped in surprise. Under the gaze of Jing Yu and the others, the scenery below was panoramic. The green trees and flowers, as well as the clear water source, made everyone gasp in surprise. This was the legendary oasis in the desert. Could it be a mirage? After Jing Yu was pleasantly surprised, she suddenly seemed to have thought of something. She suddenly said this sentence, which immediately made the surprised people reveal a look of surprise in their eyes. Looking at the oasis not far away, they suddenly felt that it was possible. It was said that the oasis in the desert was very difficult to find. How could they find it so easily? It was most likely fake. Everyone, don't be anxious. Just keep moving forward at a normal speed. According to the distance we can see, if it is really an oasis, we can reach it in less than half a day. If it is fake, you won't be able to reach it even if you run. Jing Yu's calm words immediately extinguished the excitement of the crowd. What Jing Yu said was right. If people in the desert really encountered a mirage, they would be excited and run forward with all their might. However, when they used up all their water and physical strength, they would realize that the mirage was still very far away from them. In the end, they would run out of water and energy. Their fate was clear, and that was to die in the desert. Therefore, Jing Yu's words woke everyone up. After the initial excitement, everyone followed Jing Yu's words and walked steadily towards the oasis. No one drank large mouthfuls of water. Instead, they kept the water in their mouths and walked step by step towards the depths of the desert. As Jing Yu and the others approached, they could clearly see the oasis getting closer and closer. Everyone had been suppressing the impulse in their hearts. Finally, when they were only 100 steps away, they felt that the wind from the oasis was different. Suddenly, everyone rushed in as if they had gone crazy. Their eyes were filled with joy. Jing Yu also didn't expect that they would actually encounter the oasis in the desert. It really made everyone feel as if they had survived a disaster and reached heaven. Obviously, Jing Yu was feeling like that now. God, I can't take it anymore. I want to take a bath. Jing Yu looked at the clear water and said, "Let everyone fill this water bottle first." Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows calmly. He turned around and asked everyone to fill the water bottle. Then, he asked Pang Shui to let the girls bathe first. After that, everyone should bathe as well. Everyone applauded. Naturally, no one refused. This oasis looked very small from afar. However, when they came closer, they realized that it was very big. Jing Yu, Shangguan Linglan, and Ke were all present in this oasis. Chapter 1682. After receiving permission, all of them excitedly jumped into the water to take a bath. After walking in the desert for so many days, they even had to be careful with the water they drank. Now that they could take a comfortable bath, the 3 women were about to fall asleep inside. The men who were chased out were all waiting anxiously. Done. Finally, Shangguan Linglan and Jing Yu came out and changed into clean clothes. The 3 of them sat under the shade of a tree outside. The sound of men's laughter could be heard from inside. It made them feel that it would be great if they could stay in this oasis forever. Thinking of this, the 3 of them sighed deeply. By the time the sun went down, everyone had changed into a new set of clothes. Their faces were glowing with radiance. They rested in this oasis for the night. Naturally, no one had any objections. How could they have any objections when such a good thing was happening? Perhaps it was because of the oasis, but Jing Yu felt that the night sky was especially beautiful. Xiao Chen held Jing Yu's hand and walked around the periphery of the oasis. The 2 of them talked softly and laughed from time to time. looking at the hazy night sky was very gentle. I haven't seen your face in a long time. Let me see. Xiao Chen looked around and saw that there was no one around. He held Jing Yu's hand and said. When Jing Yu heard Xiao Chen's words, she found it funny. She arched her eyebrows and looked at Xiao Chen and said, You've looked at me for so many years. Aren't you tired of looking at me? Of course I'm not tired of looking at you. No matter how much I look at you, it's not enough. Xiao Chen said. He reached out and gently lifted Jing Yu's veil, revealing Jing Yu's beautiful face. Her pair of golden-green eyes shone brightly in the dark night. Xiao Chen stared at Jing Yu closely. It was as if he wanted to engrave Jing Yu into his heart bit by bit. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. At this moment, even his breathing was gentle. Have you seen enough? Jing Yu's eyes were full of smiles. She blinked and stared at Xiao Chen as she asked joyfully. Not enough. Xiao Chen leaned over and planted a gentle kiss between Jing Yu's eyebrows. He said, I can't get enough of seeing you in this lifetime. Jing Yu listened to Xiao Chen's sweet talk and smiled happily. Where did you learn this from? The words you say now are so touching. It's probably because she didn't know where her feelings came from, but she kept going, Xiao Chen said as he looked deeply at Jing Yu. His words were very affectionate. It made Jing Yu's heart tremble in an instant. Looking at Xiao Chen's back facing the moonlight and his body full of love, Jing Yu's expression changed instantly. She raised her hand and wrapped it around Xiao Chen's neck. Then she kissed Xiao Chen's slightly cold lips. Xiao Chen reached out and hugged Jing Yu back. He deepened the kiss with incomparable passion. Under the moonlight in the dark night, the two of them hugged each other. It was as if no matter what happened, they would never be separated. Their hearts were so close that they could hear each other's breathing clearly. They could also feel each other's deep love for each other. Xiao Chen, I'm so happy, Jing Yu said with a chuckle as she lifted her head from Xiao Chen's embrace. Ah, Xiao Chen responded. He seemed to want to say that he was also very happy. However, the moment he saw Jing Yu open her eyes, he was stunned. Chapter 1683. What's wrong? Jing Yu saw Xiao Chen's stunned expression and was also stunned. She looked at Xiao Chen with some confusion and asked. Xiao Chen didn't answer Jing Yu's question. Instead, he stared intently at Jing Yu's eyes. Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu's golden-green eyes. The moment Jing Yu opened her eyes, her golden-green eyes flickered. Then, the golden-green eyes turned pitch black. Xiao Chen's heart trembled violently. He seemed to have thought of something. He frowned and didn't say anything. What's wrong? Jing Yu saw Xiao Chen staring at her silently. She suddenly felt strange and reached out to touch her face. She asked in confusion, Is there something on my face? Nothing. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu's pitch-black eyes. They had lost their radiance. Xiao Chen was thinking about what to say to Jing Yu when Jing Yu suddenly frowned. Then, Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu's pitch-black eyes slowly turn golden-green. The golden-green light was so bright that it was as if what Xiao Chen saw just now was a momentary anomaly. Xiao Chen worriedly reached out to touch the corner of Jing Yu's eyes. Jing Yu grabbed Xiao Chen's hand and asked, What's wrong? My eyes? Are they beautiful? Jing Yu blinked and looked at Xiao Chen as she asked. Yes, they are beautiful. Xiao Chen slightly raised his eyebrows and stared at Jing Yu. When he saw that Jing Yu's eyes didn't continue to change, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. However, he was a little confused. Why did Jing Yu's eyes suddenly change? On the way back, Xiao Chen seemed to have something on his mind. When Jing Yu talked to Xiao Chen, she could clearly feel that Xiao Chen was casually responding. Jing Yu frowned slightly. Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't seem to want to talk about it, she remained silent for a while and didn't ask. She just quietly followed Xiao Chen and walked back to where everyone was. Xiao Chen slightly looked at Jing Yu. Jing Yu had already covered her eyes with her gauze hat. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to tell Jing Yu, but he thought that Jing Yu could also hide the color in her eyes. This time, it was probably the same. Thinking like this, Xiao Chen didn't take this matter to heart. In addition, they were already in a crowded place. It wasn't good to talk about this matter. Thus, he delayed it. The stars filled the sky. Everyone was sleeping peacefully here. However, A different scene appeared in the sand city in the desert. What's going on? A slightly shrill voice sounded. The woman dressed in luxurious clothes was the second aunt. At this moment, she was sitting by the bed. Her eyes were filled with shock. The person lying on the bed was a handsome man. The dark red blood stain on his shoulder was very eye-catching. This person was the man from the sound attack family who was injured by Jingyu. What's going on? Wenju, you tell me. The second aunt turned her head sternly and looked at the little girl kneeling on the ground. Her eyes were filled with anger. Second aunt, please forgive me. When Zhu kowtowed in panic and said, Zhu doesn't know what's going on. Those people are too powerful. They injured second brother in the blink of an eye. Zhu doesn't know how. Chapter 1684. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap rang out. Before Wenjur could finish her sentence, the woman gave her a vicious slap and scolded her viciously, Trash. I asked you to protect the second young master, and this is how you protect him. And please forgive me. Wenjur was slapped so hard that she did not dare to say a word. She trembled as she knelt on the ground. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, the man on the bed slowly opened his eyes. Hanger, how are you? The woman heard the commotion and quickly turned her head. She looked at the man with a pained expression and asked, Where do you feel uncomfortable? Tell me. I'm fine. The man shook his head weakly and said, Mother, please don't punish Sister Zhur. We were careless this time. Mother, please call a few uncles over to discuss how to deal with this matter. Tell Mother, how did you get injured? The woman's eyes were filled with coldness as she asked, Mother knows your character. You must have hidden it well. You even had a pack of wolves under your control. How could you be injured by those people? As the woman spoke, her eyes were fixed on the man lying on the bed. There was a hint of dissatisfaction in her eyes, causing the pale man's face to turn even paler when he saw the dissatisfaction in his mother's eyes. Mother, I'm useless. The man's hand on the bed clenched slightly and he slowly said, Those people were not afraid of the wolves at all. I don't know what happened either. What did you say? The woman's face turned ugly when she heard the man's words. She glared at the man and asked, Those people were not afraid of the wolves. What did you see? I didn't see anything. The man lowered his eyes slightly to hide the look in his eyes and said, It's just that when I was controlling the wolves, I suddenly realized that some of the wolves were not under my control. The woman's face changed when she heard the man's words. She seemed to have thought of something. She turned to Wenjur and said, Did you feel the same? Are some of the wolves out of control at the back? Yes, but... Wenjur thought for a moment and nodded. It was true that after the man killed the alpha wolf, he lost control for a moment. Wenjur agreed and was about to explain when she saw the cold gaze of the man lying on the bed. When Wenjur saw the man's cold gaze, her body trembled. The words that she wanted to say were stuck in her throat, and she couldn't utter a single word. The wolf pack went out of control. He wasn't afraid of the wolf pack, and he even injured my child. The woman frowned as if she had caught some information from his words. Her eyes widened in shock as she said, I understand. Mother, what's wrong? The man seemed to be very aggrieved as he said, I'm useless. I couldn't share your burden. The woman took a deep breath and lovingly caressed the man's face. Mother is already very satisfied that you can do this. If you didn't come back in time, I'm afraid you would have died outside. Chapter 1685. What? The man seemed to be in shock as he stared at the woman in shock. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Rest well here. The woman seemed to have no time to say anything else. After instructing the servants to take care of the second young master, she turned around and left. Her eyes were filled with sternness as she said, Go and summon the elders. As the woman walked away, the man lying on the bed slowly let out a sigh of relief. He relaxed his body and slowly closed his eyes. Second brother, why didn't you let me tell Aunt that those uncontrollable wolves were? After her aunt left, Wenjur anxiously asked the man lying on the bed. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Zhu. The man slowly opened his eyes. His pitch-black eyes were filled with an intense coldness. He stared at Wen Zhu and said, "You only need to answer my question. If I don't ask you to say anything else, don't say anything. Otherwise, you'll have to pay the price for what you say." The man's eyes were so cold that the little girl seemed to be surprised by the man's words. Looking at the man's eyes that were staring at her as if she was a complete stranger, her body suddenly trembled violently. "Yes, Zhu understands." The little girl seemed to be extremely shocked. She pursed her lips tightly and lowered her head as she knelt on the ground, not daring to move. When Zhu could not understand why her second brother would do this. Second aunt was the head of the musical aristocratic family, and her second brother was the future successor. She was just a lowly servant. She probably did not have the right to understand the deep meaning behind this. The man slowly lay on the bed and stared at the top of the bed. He slowly closed his eyes as if he was thinking about something. The man's hands by his side slowly clenched. It was just some people from the pugilistic world, but they had hurt him. If his mother knew that he was so useless, the man's body could not help but tremble violently as if he was thinking about the useless punishment he would receive. He could only make his words vague so that his mother would think that it was not just people from the pugilistic world who came in this time. Only then would she not blame him. If he were to be questioned afterwards, he would find out that he did not mention any of the main points. He would have an excuse and a way out. That would be enough. On the other side of the Sand City, there were a few people sitting alone. This was a familiar scene. The woman sitting at the side had a cold look in her eyes. She stared at the person who wrote the second half of the couplet and said, "Strange pupil is here." What? As soon as the woman finished speaking, the faces of the three men and the woman below were filled with astonishment. One of the three men was someone Jing Yu was familiar with. It was during the battle outside Jinling City. Jing Yu was controlled by the people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family who had suddenly appeared. The leader of this group was the man who sat beside the woman. He was called Villa Master Ji. Abnormal pupils? They came to find us? Manor Head Ji's eyes were filled with astonishment as he asked in horror. Not bad. The woman sitting at the head of the table slowly nodded and said, "Or has already clashed with this strange pupil. Fortunately, he only suffered minor injuries and came back." Chapter 1686. Second young master is injured? He's already fought with the other pupil? Manor Head Ji's expression turned even uglier. When he heard the woman's words, he suddenly felt a sense of panic. He frowned deeply and said, "When the Holy Family sent a letter saying that the other pupil was still alive, I felt very uneasy. I didn't think that this day would come so early." Manor Head Ji frowned deeply. "Aunt, what do you plan to do?" Manor Head Ji looked up at the woman and said, "The last time we fought, our vitality was greatly damaged. Although we've mostly recovered after a long period of recuperation, my little sister still hasn't fully recovered. If she continues to fight with the other pupil, I'm afraid it will be difficult." "I understand." The woman nodded slowly and said, "But since the other pupil is here, we can't just sit here and wait for death." "Aunt, is the news of the other pupil's arrival true?" The man sitting on the other side had a face full of beard, but his eyes were full of light. After a moment of silence, he asked in a deep voice, "Are you suspecting that Heng is lying?" When the woman heard this question, she frowned in displeasure and said, "To be able to use the sound of music to steal the beast's control, who else do you think it could be other than the other pupil?" When the man heard the woman's words, he lowered his head deeply and didn't say anything else. "I called you all here to tell you that the other pupil's attack is coming. We can't wait here any longer." The woman slowly stood up and said, "If the other pupil's people come to Sand City, it will be extremely disadvantageous for us." "Aunt, what do you plan to do?" After hearing the woman's words, the people below also straightened their bodies and asked solemnly, "We will take the initiative to attack. Before the other pupil's woman can make any preparations, we will kill them all outside Sand City." When the woman said this, her pitch-black eyes were filled with intense killing intent. Everyone looked at the woman's face and felt fear in their hearts. Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others who just came out of the oasis didn't know that they were being watched. It was probably because they spent the night in the oasis that they felt refreshed. They didn't feel uncomfortable walking in the desert anymore. They even felt like they had just entered the desert. It was very comfortable. Why do I feel that this section of the road is so quiet? Jing Yu blinked her eyes curiously and asked, could it be that we're the only ones who escaped from the wolf pack? Jing Yu looked around curiously and asked, you're thinking too much. Feng Ling leisurely placed her hand behind her head and said, don't think that those people from the big factions are useless. If they want to be ruthless, even you and I can't compare. If the people of the pugilistic world fight with their lives on the line, it's indeed very scary, Feng Maching said very calmly from the side. You're praising yourselves. When Jing Yu heard their words, the corners of her mouth curled up in amusement and said, you're talking as if you're not from the pugilistic world. That Feng Ling looked at Jing Yu seriously and said, we're the kind of people who cherish our lives very much. If we can't win, we'll run. Chapter 1687. Ha! Jing Yu smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. Listening to everyone's words, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. Such peaceful days were truly delightful. Listening to Feng Ling and the others talking, Jing Yu's lips curled up in joy. From time to time, she would interrupt. She could see Feng Ling and Feng Maching quarreling fiercely, and the person playing the role of the King of Hell was quietly following behind. Jing Yu hadn't heard him say a word for so long. What an amazing person! In the desert, under the scorching sun, Jing Yu's expression was very calm. When she looked sideways, she happened to see Xing Yi handing the water bottle in his hand to Su Yu. Su Yu looked at the water bottle in Xing Yi's hand and frowned slightly. Palace Lord, drink some water. Just as Su Yu was frowning, another hand reached over from the side. Su Yu lowered her head silently and took the water Ling Yong handed over. Xing Yi's expression darkened bit by bit. Jing Yu saw this scene and sighed deeply. What a strange trio. On this journey, such situations would happen many times. Jing Yu was tired of seeing it. She really didn't know what Xing Yi was talking about. Jing Yu was extremely conflicted about the relationship between these three people. However, these three people didn't seem to feel anything. Jing Yu thought that this time would be the same as before. Xing Yi would still take the water bottle in his hand and sit silently at the side. However, there were always accidents in the world. Just as Jing Yu was thinking this, she suddenly saw Xing Yi suddenly reach out and violently throw the water bottle Ling Yong handed over to him on the ground. Then, without a word, he grabbed Su Yu's hand and walked towards the sand dune outside the circle. Palace Lord. Ling Yong's expression changed and he suddenly stood up. Second brother, 15th brother. Stop him. Xing Yi's gloomy voice sounded. Xing Er and Xing Shiwu both stood up at the same time, blocking Ling Yong. Xing Yi called out Lao Er and Lao Shiwu without the word Xing. This meant that he was calling them brothers, unlike Xiao Qin, who called them brothers as an order. As brothers, Xing Er and Xing Shiwu were duty-bound to block Ling Yong. Get out of the way. Ling Yong's face was filled with gloom. Xing Yi won't treat Su Yu like this. Protector Ling, you'd better not do anything. Otherwise, we're all members of the same team and we'll lose face if we fight. Just as the three of them were about to start fighting, Jing Yu's voice drifted over, causing the atmosphere to dissipate bit by bit. What do you mean? Ling Yong turned to look at Jing Yu. It's literally what it means. Jing Yu shrugged nonchalantly. Ling Yong's eyes were filled with anger. He turned to look at Feng Ling, Feng Maching, and the others who were watching in silence. An incomparably sullen feeling rose in Feng Ling's heart, but he couldn't do anything about it at the moment. Jing Yu watched as Ling Yong sat down at the side, then nodded in satisfaction. On the other side, Su Yu was suddenly dragged away by Interrogation Officer 1. Just like that, Interrogation Officer 1 grabbed Su Yu's hand and strode forward. Behind him, Su Yu almost had to jog in order to catch up. When she finally stopped outside, Su Yu was panting a little. Su Yu raised her head and was about to speak, but she saw that Xing Yi, who was holding her hand tightly and had his back facing her, didn't say a word. He reached out and pulled Su Yu into his arms, leaned forward, and kissed her lips. Chapter 1688. It was probably because Su Yu hated him. Hey, brother. Feng Ling came over curiously and swallowed her saliva. She looked at Xing Yi and said, "Don't tell me you took advantage of the palace lord of Constellation Palace? That's why she got slapped?" After Feng Ling said that, everyone could feel the anger rising from Xing Yi's body. "You're right." When Feng Ling saw Interrogation Officer 1's reaction, she instantly jumped up as if she had seen a ghost. She looked at Interrogation Officer 1 in shock. Interrogation Officer 1 silently turned his head to look at Feng Ling. The expression on Feng Ling's face immediately froze. Just as Feng Ling was about to say something, Xing Yi suddenly reached out and held Feng Ling's shoulder. "Brother, I really couldn't tell that you were so powerful." Feng Ling looked at the hand on her shoulder and said to Xing Yi with a smile. Interrogation Officer 1 continued to look at Feng Ling silently, then pulled out a calm smile. Feng Ling was slightly taken aback. Just as he was about to smile as well, a vicious look suddenly appeared in Interrogation Officer 1's eyes. Almost as soon as Feng Ling was caught off guard, a fist landed viciously on Feng Ling's stomach. Feng Ling curled up like a prawn and curled up on the ground, unable to say a word. "I've wanted to hit you for a long time." Feng Maching gave Xing Yi a big thumbs up. Xing Yi looked at Feng Ling lying on the ground and walked away without saying a word. Jing Yu looked at Xing Yi and then at Feng Ling. She deeply felt that this was the consequence of courting death. However, Feng Ling had guessed correctly. Interrogation Officer 1 and Su Yu were probably. It was hard to say what the situation was now. However, Su Yu chased Xing Yi so much back then and he didn't know how to cherish her. Now he knew how good she was? "Do you think you can go back so easily?" She was thinking too much. It was better to let this man know, so that he would know how to cherish people in the future. Jing Yu leaned comfortably on Xiao Qin and didn't ask much about Xing Yi. After a short rest, they set off again. Walking on the road, Jing Yu could clearly feel Xing Yi's absent-mindedness. Shangguan Linglan carefully pulled Jing Yu to his side. Then, she pushed Xing Er to Xiao Chen's side. Xing Er and Xiao Chen both turned to look at Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan. When they saw the looks on their faces, they helplessly turned their heads and continued walking. "What's wrong?" Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglan and asked curiously. "Nothing, I just want to go with you." Shangguan Linglan looked at Jing Yu and said calmly. "Forget it." Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglan with disdain and said, "I saw that you couldn't wait to stick to Xing Er. Do you still remember me? You're still talking about me." Shangguan Linglan heard Jing Yu's words and suddenly blushed. She said angrily, "Aren't you also sticking to Xiao Qin? You're already the father and mother of the child, but you're still like this." "Puchi." Jing Yu poked Shangguan Linglan's arm and said, "Tell me the truth, are you going to ask me how to get pregnant faster?" "Lower your voice." When Jing Yu finished speaking, Shangguan Linglan seemed to explode. Almost without thinking, she covered Jing Yu's mouth and turned to look at Xing Er and Xiao Qin, who were walking in front. Chapter 1689. Seeing that the two of them did not move at all, she thought that the two of them did not hear her. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief and let out a deep sigh. However, how could Xing Er and Xiao Qin not hear her? Originally, when Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan walked together and the two of them looked like they were on good terms, the two of them were very jealous. They wanted to hear what the two of them were going to talk about behind their backs. With that thought, the two of them listened carefully to the conversation between the two of them. Just as they were engrossed in the conversation, they suddenly heard Jing Yu's words. Second Xing almost lost his footing. Fortunately, his mental fortitude was rather good, so he instantly steadied himself. However, her head slowly drooped down, and the tips of her ears instantly turned red. The atmosphere between Xing Er and Xiao Qin instantly became incomparably strange. Xing Er obviously knew that his master must have heard their conversation. He immediately became even more embarrassed and lowered his head without saying a word. Xiao Qin probably sensed the strange awkwardness and coughed slightly before saying, Having a child is a big matter. You have to make good use of it. Xing Er's face froze for a moment before he replied in silence, yes. However, he was completely confused. He did not know what Xiaochen meant by making good use of it. However, if he were to ask, Xing Er would not have the face to do so. After Xiaochen finished speaking, he also did not know what the hell he was talking about. He coughed slightly and decisively chose to walk forward quickly. He did not want to hear what Jingyu and Shangguan Linglong were talking about anymore. Xing Er probably had the same thoughts as Xiaochen. Immediately, the two of them quickened their pace and walked forward. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglong seemed to have vaguely heard second Xing's response. The two of them quickened their pace and walked forward. They were still thinking that the two of them had something to discuss, so they did not take it seriously. This is not something shameful. Why do you want me to speak softly? Jingyu asked curiously when she saw Shangguan Linglong's big reaction. Jingyu, do you have any sense of shame? Shangguan Linglong glared at Jingyu and asked in disdain. Hey, who asked this first? Jingyu asked Shangguan Linglong. I. Shangguan Linglong's face instantly turned red. But Jingyu hugged Shangguan Linglong's arm and asked, tell me first. How far have you and Xing Er progressed? About giving birth. If you want me to tell you properly, I really can't say it. Because when I was pregnant, I didn't even know what was going on, Jingyu said calmly as she shrugged. Really? You didn't feel anything at all? Shangguan Linglong suddenly frowned and looked at Jingyu. He asked again, then, was giving birth very painful? I heard from my mother that it was very painful. Well, Jingyu pursed her lips and said, when you see your child with your own eyes, you will feel that any pain is worth it. Shangguan Linglong suddenly frowned and said, it really is very painful. I suddenly don't want to give birth anymore. What should I do? Ha! Jingyu looked at Shangguan Linglong and suddenly laughed out loud. The people around them looked over and saw Jingyu and Shanghai Linglong talking and laughing. Their gazes softened. Chapter 1690. What are you laughing at? Shangguan Linglong blushed when he heard Jingyu's laughter. I'm not laughing at anything. You should think about it now. Once we get back to Tokyo, you should hurry up and get married. Jingyu tugged on Shangguan Linglong's hand and said, if you continue to dawdle, what if Xing Er takes a fancy to another girl? Let's see what you'll do then. Shangguan Linglong immediately straightened his back. When he heard Jingyu's words, he immediately turned to look at Xing Er. When he looked over, he saw that Xing Er was talking to Ke-er. He didn't know what they were talking about, but he was looking at Ke-er with a sweet smile. Shangguan Linglong's heart skipped a beat. Without saying a word, he strode over to Xing Er and reached out to hold Xing Er's arm. He said gently, I'm tired from walking. Let me lean on you. Xing Er's body froze. He looked at Shangguan Linglong and nodded apologetically. Miss Ke-er, you should ask Qinggu personally about this matter. Okay. Ke-er lowered her head shyly and nodded at Xing Er and Shangguan Linglong before walking away. Shangguan Linglong looked at Ke-er's back as she walked away. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes. What were the two of them talking about? Xing Er looked at Shangguan Linglong's hand that was hugging him tightly and asked, what's wrong? Are you tired? When Shangguan Linglong heard Xing Er's words, he hurriedly turned his head and looked at his hand. Just as he was thinking about whether he should pull his hand back, Xing Er took the initiative to hold it. The weather was hot, but Xing Er's hand seemed to be slightly cold. Shangguan Linglong originally wanted to pull his hand back, but now he just let Xing Er hold it. He seemed to have thought of something and lowered his head slightly. What did Miss Ke-er say to you just now? Shangguan Linglong pursed his lips and asked Xing Er. She wanted to ask about Qinggu. Xing Er didn't think much of it and replied slowly. Oh. When he heard Xing Er's words, Shangguan Linglong instantly felt relieved. What's wrong? Xing Er seemed to have sensed something as he turned to look at Shangguan Linglong. He happened to see Shangguan Linglong heaving a sigh of relief. His lips curled into a faint smile as he said, Are you jealous? I'm not. When Shangguan Linglong heard Xing Er's words, the redness on his face deepened. Fortunately, he was wearing a veil. Otherwise, Shangguan Linglan would have found a hole to hide in. Xing Er looked at Shangguan Linglan's expression and smiled faintly. When Shangguan Linglan saw Xing Er's expression, he was so angry that he wanted to pull his hand back. However, how could Xing Er let Shangguan Linglan do as he wished? He grabbed Shangguan Linglan's hand tightly and didn't let go. Shangguan Linglan tried to break free, but he couldn't. He glared at Xing Er in disdain and said, "You're hurting me. Don't move." Second interrogation officer relaxed his grip on Shangguan Linglan's hand as expected. He quietly held onto Shangguan Linglan's hand and walked forward with steady steps. Jing Yu was behind the two of them. When she saw their actions, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. Xiao Chen naturally came to her side. When Jing Yu looked sideways, she saw Xiao Chen looking straight ahead and found it very interesting. Chapter 1691. The group walked in the desert for many days. Jing Yu began to wonder if they had gone the wrong way. Wasn't the sand city on the edge of the oasis? Why hadn't they reached it after walking for so many days? There is more than one oasis in the desert. When Jing Yu asked Xiao Chen, she heard Xiao Chen say this to her. Jing Yu nodded as if she understood. It turned out that there was more than one oasis in the desert. So you're saying that it's very likely that we're not going to the oasis on the edge of the sand city? Jing Yu suddenly frowned. She looked sideways at Xiao Chen and said, "Let's ask Pang Shuwei first. Is this the right path?" Jing Yu said and walked towards Pang Shuwei. Pang Shuwei was looking at the map with everyone. When he saw Jing Yu and Xiao Chen walking over, he immediately moved aside. "Where are we now? This is the right direction, right?" Jing Yu glanced at the map, then looked up at Pang Shuwei and asked. "The direction is definitely the right one." Pang Shuwei frowned slightly and said, "But there's a problem now. When we obtained the treasure map, there was a fight. The part that we obtained can only take us here. We don't know where the next part of the map is. We don't know which force has the other part of the map." Pang Shuwei said seriously, "This is the Sand City, but after walking for a while, the road diverges into 3 directions. Which one should we go?" "It's actually an incomplete map?" Jing Yu looked at the map on the ground and frowned. Her eyes were full of seriousness. This was troublesome. There should be a stone forest in front. Pang Shuwei said again, "Now we can only take one step at a time. Let's go to the stone forest first. As for which path to take, we'll discuss it later." "Yes, that's the only way." Everyone nodded in agreement. There was a sense of helplessness in their hearts. Not knowing the direction of the map made them feel uneasy. Fortunately, they had encountered an oasis before. This time, the water source was sufficient. If he took the wrong path, he could just walk back. There shouldn't be any problems. With that thought in mind, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. After a short rest, they continued to move forward. From where Jing Yu and the others were, they walked to the last spot on the map. When they arrived at the last spot on the map, everyone was stunned. Standing on top of the hill, they could see the towering soil from afar. That's right, it wasn't a stone forest in front of them. Those towering soil were all piled up together like piles of pillars. Looking from afar, it was an incomparably spectacular sight. The sand was divided into 3 paths, almost turning the entire desert into a sand pile. "This place is really magical," Jing Yu exclaimed. "These sand piles were blown out by the wind over the years." Zhuji said faintly, "I don't know how many years have passed, but these sand piles have become like this." "I see." Hearing this, Jing Yu nodded in realization. Her eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She turned to look at Zhuji and said, "I didn't expect young Master Zhua to know about this." Chapter 1692. Of course. Zhuji turned around to look at Jing Yu and said, "There are too many unknown dangers in this desert. If we don't understand them clearly and die in this desert one day without knowing why, wouldn't it be too ridiculous?" "Ha!" Jing Yu immediately laughed when she heard this. She sighed and said, "Young Master Zhua, I agree with what you said. Let's go down." While Jing Yu was talking to Zhuji, the group had already walked down. Jing Yu followed behind them and walked towards the sand forest. It looked very spectacular from afar, but when they stood under the sand, they suddenly felt like they were surrounded by people. They looked up at the towering sand and sighed countless times in their hearts. This was the wonder of nature. To be able to turn the sand into such a state, it was like an exquisite piece of art. Jing Yu seemed to have thought of something. She tilted her head slightly and looked at Xiao Chen as she asked, "Xiao Chen, do you still remember the desert where we met Yishui?" "I remember." Xiao Chen nodded slowly and said, "However, the marks on the desert were blown by the wind, but this isn't." "Yes, this wind is really a scary thing," Jing Yu said indifferently. When she turned her head, she saw a group of people walking inside. Jing Yu and the others followed them in. "This is really a good place." Feng Maching narrowed his eyes and said, "It's like a maze. If we want to set up an ambush or something, this is the best place to do it." "Forget it," Feng Ling said with disdain. Feng Ling glared at Feng Maching in disdain and said, "As expected of someone from Sanluo Tower. Every time you open your mouth, you talk about killing. Who in this desert would dare to attack us?" When Jing Yu heard these two people's words, a faint smile appeared on her face. Then, as if she thought of something, she frowned and her eyes became serious. She suddenly stopped in her tracks. "Did you hear something?" Jing Yu asked with a serious expression. "What?" Feng Ling and Feng Maching didn't want to give in to each other's quarrel. When they suddenly heard Jing Yu's serious words, they were stunned and asked doubtfully, "Is there a strange sound?" "I didn't hear it." Everyone looked at each other. "No, there is a sound." Jing Yu's expression became serious. She suddenly looked up and said, "It's music. Come out. Retreat." Without thinking, Jing Yu turned around and led Feng Ling and the others outside like crazy. The people inside didn't know what was going on. Some of them reacted quickly. After hearing Jing Yu's panicked voice, they rushed out with Jing Yu almost at the same time. As for those who reacted slower and were still talking and laughing, they didn't know what was going on. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head slightly and saw countless sand snakes falling from the sky. The snakes were all hidden in the sand and stones. Now, at this moment, they rushed out crazily. Ah! In an instant, those people were surrounded. A few of them quickly shook off the snakes that fell on them and rushed out. Chapter 1693. However, before they could even catch their breaths, they were stunned by the situation before them. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen, who were the first to run out, froze on the spot, not daring to move an inch. The originally spacious road was now completely blocked, and the people blocking the road were Jing Yu and the rest of the group were all familiar with. The densely packed wolf heads appeared one after another, as if all the wolves in the desert had been summoned. Jing Yu swallowed hard and pursed her lips tightly as she looked at the situation before her. So what was going on now? The sound of music suddenly rang out. In this vast and empty desert, this music was so familiar. Jing Yu faintly pursed her lips and slowly raised her head. She saw many people appear behind the wolf pack. The music stopped, and Jing Yu and the rest looked at the sand snakes behind them and the sand wolves in front of them. They were all staring at Jing Yu and the others like tigers watching their prey. They seemed to be waiting for orders to attack. Sound attack aristocratic family. Jing Yu looked at those people from afar, and her eyes, hidden under the veil, were filled with a strong murderous intent. "Don't be rash." Xiao Chen held Jing Yu's hand and slowly hid behind the group. He said solemnly, "Those people recognize us. Don't let them see us." Zhuo Ji saw Xiao Chen and Jing Yu's actions and suddenly said with a frown, "Everyone, cover your faces." No one knew why they had to cover their faces, but since it was said, there must be a reason for doing so. When Jing Yu heard Zhuo Ji's words, she turned to look at Zhuo Ji with a smile and thanked him softly. "You don't have to thank me. Just remember that you owe me a favor," Zhuo Ji said calmly as he narrowed his eyes. When Jing Yu heard Zhuo Ji's words, the corners of her lips curled slightly. She didn't say anything and slowly took out her bayonet. It looked like there would be another fierce battle today. While Jing Yu and the rest were on guard, the members of the sound attack aristocratic family slowly frowned. "Third brother, Can you tell which one is the woman with different pupils and the ninth uncle? The person who was addressed as Auntie tilted her head and asked. And they are all masked. I really can't recognize them. Mannerhead Ji, who was being taught, looked at Jing Yu's group from afar. He frowned and said, there aren't many women among them. Forget it, the woman said calmly. The woman said calmly, just command the wolves to attack. If there are people with different pupils, they will definitely counterattack. When the time comes, we will know if there really are people with different pupils. If there aren't, they are just people who are eyeing the treasures of our sand city. Just kill them. The woman said calmly. When everyone heard this, their bodies trembled violently and they agreed respectfully. The music started playing again. When Jing Yu heard the music, her heart couldn't help but tighten. She frowned as she looked at the wolves approaching step by step and the hissing sand snakes behind her. She couldn't understand why the members of the Sound Attack aristocratic family would suddenly attack them. Could they have discovered that they had entered the desert? Chapter 1694. Under normal circumstances, this shouldn't have happened. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen had been in the desert for so long, but they had never revealed their special pupils in front of anyone. How could they have been discovered here? Or could it be that the musical attack family hadn't discovered the existence of Jing Yu and Xiao Chen, and they had appeared here just to test them? Jing Yu was a little confused, but the current situation didn't give Jing Yu a chance to think too much. The wolves and sand snakes attacked in an instant. This time, the music was very different from the previous one. Jing Yu and the others were having a hard time dealing with it. The wolves and sand snakes were very difficult to deal with. Once again, they launched an encirclement when everyone was unprepared. Jing Yu frowned. Seeing that everyone was having a hard time dealing with it, she knew that they couldn't go on like this. They had to think of a solution. Otherwise, they would be in trouble. Jing Yu looked around. The current situation was very bad for them, but it seemed that there was no way to turn things around. The music sounded even clearer. The wolves and sand snakes were attacking with all their might. There were many bloodstains on everyone's bodies. Jing Yu's face turned cold. These musical attack family obviously didn't intend to stop. Even if they couldn't find any special pupils in this team, they definitely wouldn't let them go. Don't be rash. Xiao Chen seemed to know what Jing Yu wanted to do. He reached out and grabbed Jing Yu's arm. He said very seriously, now is not the time to expose your special pupils. We have to find another solution. These people from the aristocratic family of sound attacks clearly have no intention of stopping. Jing Yu's eyes were full of coldness as she said, if I don't do something, they will all die. Jing Yu panted heavily. Xiao Chen's expression stiffened when he heard Jing Yu's words. He turned to look at Pang Shuwei and He Xiong, who were engaged in a bitter battle, and furrowed his brows. Xiao Chen, I don't want more people to die because of me. Jing Yu stared deeply at Xiao Chen as she spoke. Her deep words made Xiao Chen's expression change slightly. Do you know what the consequences will be if you reveal your unusual pupils? Xiao Chen tightened his grip on Jing Yu's hand as he said gravely, if you reveal that you have abnormal pupils, the people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family will kill them all. I understand, but I have the ability to fight them. I can't just sit by and watch. Jing Yu replied resolutely. Xiao Chen's expression changed rapidly. In the end, he sighed deeply and said, since you have made your decision, then do it. Xiao Chen's words were filled with helplessness, but he also seemed to be relieved. Jing Yu would probably make such a decision because she was Jing Yu. Jing Yu stared deeply at Xiao Chen and finally said slowly, Xiao Chen, I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing to me? Whether we live or die, I will be with you. Xiao Chen stared deeply at Jing Yu and said, don't let me hear those words again. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with a faint smile. She turned around and took a step forward. Through the veil in front of her, she looked at the people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family in the distance. Her expression gradually turned serious. Just as Jing Yu was about to control the wolf pack, Jing Yu's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 1695. A very strange feeling came from her stomach, causing Jing Yu's face to turn slightly pale. What's wrong? Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu's stiff appearance and was slightly stunned. He looked at the wolves in front of him and saw that they hadn't been dispersed. He immediately frowned and asked Jing Yu. I don't know what's wrong. Jing Yu slowly swallowed her saliva and said, Xiao Chen, I can't control the wolves. What? Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, he reached out and lifted Jing Yu's veil. With a glance, he saw Jing Yu's pair of pitch-black eyes. Her eyes were black. Her eyes were black. Xiao Chen's heart trembled slightly. He stared at Jing Yu and said, I know. Jing Yu didn't know what Xiao Chen meant by, I know, but Jing Yu clearly felt the seriousness in Xiao Chen's eyes. Jing Yu didn't open her mouth to ask anything, but she heard Xiao Chen order people to light the torches. The remaining torches from last time, light them all up and burn them towards the wolves and snakes. Xiao Chen's words seemed to have awakened everyone. Suddenly, everyone took out their fire extinguishers and lit the torches. On this side, Jing Yu and Xiao Chen lit the torches. The wolves and snakes seemed to be very afraid and retreated a lot. It wasn't easy for everyone to have a little time to breathe, but this situation didn't last for long. The people from the sound attack family were somewhat irritated. Auntie, these people have been forced to this point, but they didn't show any abnormal pupils. Could it be that we found the wrong person? Villa Master Ji frowned deeply and looked at the woman beside him and asked. The woman didn't say anything, but the hands hanging by her side clenched little by little. She frowned fiercely. I heard that there are several forces that entered the desert this time. There are several teams. Another man on the side said, could it be that the abnormal pupils aren't in this team? It's not impossible. Villa Master Ji slowly nodded and said, but this team's fighting strength is really tyrannical. They can actually hold on for so long. This is probably some of the famous big sects in the underworld. The other man responded again. The two people talked for a long time and the second auntie didn't respond. As if thinking of something, he slightly frowned and said, Second auntie, should we continue? The woman frowned deeply. Her heart was full of unwillingness. She didn't know why, but she always felt that this team wasn't that simple. But what was going on now? Could it be that the abnormal pupils really weren't in this team? Just as the woman was silent, a person suddenly ran over from afar. His eyes were filled with anxiety and panic. He suddenly knelt in front of the woman and said in a panic, Auntie, it's not good. Many people have broken into the Sand City. What did you say? The woman's expression changed at this moment. She frowned fiercely and her eyes were filled with fear. She stared at the person in front of her and asked, Who is it? It's those people from the underworld. They're now fighting together. The man who came to deliver the message looked like he was about to cry. After saying this, the woman suddenly flung her sleeves fiercely and her eyes were filled with dense, killing intent. Chapter 1696. This girl with different pupils really played me like a fool. The woman gritted her teeth and said, Return to the city. Everyone bowed in response. They looked at the sand wolves below and asked, Auntie, what do we do with these sand wolves? Take them back to where they came from. The woman looked at the people below with disgust and said coldly, These people are really lucky. Let's go. The people from the sound attack aristocratic family left just like that. Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others were almost unable to hold on. They originally thought that they were going to suffer a big setback here today, but they didn't expect that just when everyone was ready to fight with their lives on the line, the people from the sound attack aristocratic family left just like that. The people from the sound attack aristocratic family left in a hurry. The sand wolves were no longer under control and were also summoned away. Everyone looked at the people who left and suddenly widened their eyes. They didn't know what was going on now. When the sand wolves and sand snakes were all gone, everyone was still standing in place with their hands clenched. They looked at the wolf and human corpses on the ground and were still a little confused. It ended just like that? Qin Gu, Ku'er, quickly bandage everyone's wounds. Jing Yu called out, her body swaying a little. Yuer, what's wrong? Xiao Chen quickly reached out to support Jingyu. Jingyu frowned and reached out to take off her gauze hat. The uncomfortable feeling in her eyes made Jingyu close her eyes tightly. What's wrong with my eyes? Jingyu looked up at Xiao Chen and asked. Jingyu's pitch-black eyes stared intently at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu's black eyes and opened his mouth slightly. It seemed like he wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. Shangguan Linglan just happened to walk over. When he walked over and saw Jingyu, he was stunned. Jingyu? Shangguan Linglan opened his mouth slightly and looked at Jingyu with eyes full of surprise. What's wrong with me? Jingyu frowned and asked Shangguan Linglan. Your eyes, why did they turn black again? Shangguan Linglan looked at Jingyu in a daze and asked. Could it be that your eyes can change color again? Shangguan Linglan looked at Jingyu and asked in surprise. My eyes are black? When Jingyu heard Shangguan Linglan's words, her heart trembled violently and her lips turned pale. Why did her eyes disappear? And she didn't feel anything at all. It's okay. When Xiao Chen reached out to hug Jingyu, he suddenly saw Jingyu's eyes tremble slightly. Then, under the gaze of Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglan, they turned golden green again. Aya! Shangguan Linglan suddenly exclaimed and said again, Jingyu, can your eyes really change color now? Look, they've recovered. What the hell? Jingyu was completely dumbfounded this time. She blinked slightly and rubbed her eyes. Then, as if she had thought of something, she frowned and said, It's not under my control. What the hell are my eyes doing? Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglan and asked in confusion. How would we know what's going on with your eyes? Shangguan Linglan frowned slightly and stared at Jingyu as he said in confusion, The eyes are on your own body. How dare you ask us what's going on? Chapter 1697. It doesn't matter. Let's save them first. Pang Shuwei and the rest can decide whether they want to follow us or not. Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglan nodded slowly. After cleaning up the mess and comforting the injured, the sky had darkened. Qingge could finally rest. He casually ate a few mouthfuls of food and fell asleep without saying a word. Jingyu looked at Qingge and shook her head helplessly. She went to tell Pang Shuwei about her situation. Pang Shuwei was not surprised when he heard that Jingyu and the rest were leaving. He turned to discuss with He Xiong and the rest. The result of the discussion surprised Jingyu. She originally thought that Pang Shuwei and the rest would choose to stay here. She did not expect that Pang Shuwei and the rest would choose to follow Jingyu. Madam Xiao, us brothers will go with you. Pang Shuwei looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chen and said, If it weren't for you, us brothers would have died. Now that you are in trouble, how can we not help? That's right. He Xiong stood up and said, We know that you are not ordinary people, but we don't recognize you. We saw how you treated us along the way. Thank you. Jingyu looked at the group of people. She wanted to say something, but she did not know what to say. She bowed deeply to them and thanked them. Some of our brothers are seriously injured. They will rest here. Leopard and Kaer will stay here to guard. Pang Shuwei said, These brothers can't leave. We will come back to pick them up when we are done. All right. Jingyu nodded slowly and agreed. Just like that, it was decided. The night passed. When the sun rose, Jingyu picked up Qingge, who was still asleep. Qingge opened his sleepy eyes and looked at Jingyu. He frowned and said, The sun is not up yet. What are you doing? We should go. Jingyu poked Qingji's head and said, Stop dawdling. Get dressed. Let's go. Leaving so early? When Qingge heard Jingyu's words, he shuddered and woke up. He stared at her and said, After he spoke, he looked around and realized that some people had yet to get up. Are they not leaving? Qingge asked again. They're staying here to protect the wounded. Jingyu frowned slightly and said, Stop dawdling and get up quickly. Is that so? When Qingge heard Jingyu's words, he stood up reluctantly. He quickly packed his things and saw that everyone was ready. However, he did not find that familiar figure in the crowd. Qingge was slightly taken aback. His eyes were tinged with a faint trace of doubt. He narrowed his eyes and turned to Jingyu to ask, Ninth sister-in-law, why don't I see little sister K? She wants to stay here to take care of the wounded. Before Jing Yu could reply, she saw Pang Shiwei walking over. He said calmly, "It's getting late. Let's go." Jing Yu responded and told everyone to leave. When Qin Ge heard Pang Shiwei's words, his eyes were filled with surprise. He looked at the group of people who were still asleep and saw them leave. Chapter 1698. Are you all right? Jing Yu looked at Qing Ji's dazed expression and asked with a frown. I haven't said goodbye to Ku'er yet. Qing Ge looked at Jing Yu with hidden bitterness. After he finished speaking, he became very vexed. He lowered his head and said, If I knew that I would be leaving today, I wouldn't have gone to bed so early last night. It's not like you're not coming back. Jing Yu looked at Qing Ji's appearance and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She said calmly, After we rescue Yi Shui, we will be back. You will still be able to see your little sister Ku'er. But Qing Ji's face instantly turned red. He turned his head and looked at the people behind him who were getting further and further away. In a daze, he seemed to see a sweet figure standing by the side and smiling at him. Jing Yu turned her head to look at Qing Ji's appearance and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. This brat is finally experiencing his first awakening of love? However, this Ku'er and Qing Gu are quite compatible. Jing Yu turned her head and didn't say anything else. Yesterday, the people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family left in a hurry and successfully left behind traces. Jing Yu's group was able to follow their footsteps. At this moment, they followed the footsteps of the Sound Attack aristocratic family and headed towards the Sand City. The Sand City was a very beautiful city built from sand and stone. Jing Yu's group followed the footsteps of the Sound Attack aristocratic family and found the Sand City in the fastest way possible. They could see the ancient city from afar. From afar, the city seemed to be hidden in the wind and sand. If they walked over, there was still a long way to go. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and turned her head to look at the surroundings. This sand city was really hidden deep. Let's go. I wonder how lively this sand city is. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile as she spoke in a calm manner. Let's go. Everyone took a step forward and personally saw the distant sand city being revealed step by step. Such a shocking city. Back then, what kind of manpower was used to build this sand city? When Jing Yu walked closer, she heard the clear sounds of fighting. Above the sand city, there was music everywhere. This was the first time that Jing Yu saw music used to kill people. That's right, it was using music to kill people, not to control people. The clear sound of the instrument could only be described as a sound. When this sound spread out, it was like a sound blade, a sharp weapon for killing people. Everyone's eyes were tinged with a faint tremble. So this was the Sound Attack aristocratic family? Originally, I only knew that the members of the Sound Attack aristocratic family used sound to control beasts. Now, it seems that my understanding of the Sound Attack aristocratic family is still too little. Xiao Chen nodded slowly and said, No wonder people were so afraid of the family of Sound Attack. Yes, no one could not be fearful of such a power. Jing Yu slowly frowned as she opened her mouth and said, However, such a faction will either be able to remain supreme and continue to exist, or it will be feared by all the other factions and eventually disappear. That will depend on how the person in charge of that power will choose. Xiao Chen's words were filled with contempt. When Jing Yu heard Xiao Chen's words, she seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head slightly to look at Xiao Chen and slowly curled the corners of her mouth. Chapter 1699. Xing Yi by Jiu. Jing Yu called out. She turned to look at the two of them and said, I'll leave the rescue of Yi Shui to you guys. Go in from the side. You must find Yi Shui in the shortest time possible. We'll attack directly. Xing Yi and Bai Jiu both nodded in agreement. Let's go. Jing Yu led the group and joined the battle. Jing Yu clearly knew that as long as her pupils weren't exposed, the upper echelons of the family of sound attackers wouldn't make a move. Now, she just had to wait for Yi Shui to be safe. Then, Jing Yu wouldn't have to worry about anything. The addition of Jing Yu and the others didn't cause the current situation to become unbalanced. Jing Yu and the others only wanted to attract the attention of these people so that they could buy more time for Xing Yi and Bai Jiu. However, the situation now seemed to be a little awkward. Those people who were shouting about the treasure suddenly stopped when Jing Yu was having a good time fighting. "Don't you want the treasure? Our manor lord has agreed to let you in." Just as the commotion was in full swing, the family of sound attackers suddenly stopped and compromised. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. "Don't listen to his nonsense." A loud shout rang out from the crowd. "Who knows if these people have set up a trap in the city and are waiting for us to go in so that they can kill us directly?" Yes. If that wasn't the case, why would they lock us out for so long? Now that they've relented, there must be a trap. "Brothers, don't be fooled. Kill them." After these few words, the scene that had finally calmed down with great difficulty started fighting again. Instantly, it was chaos again. Jing Yu clearly heard who said the first sentence. Zhuji, who was standing not far from her, had a calm expression on his face. As though he had felt Jing Yu's gaze, he turned his head slightly and smiled calmly at Jing Yu. This man was terrifyingly smart. Jing Yu didn't even have time to think, but this person reacted in an instant. But Jing Yu was speechless. She had no idea what was going on. Jing Yuezhen was in a dilemma. She frowned slightly and thought for a moment before reaching out to put on her veil. She reached out and put on her veil. She was in a daze. She didn't need it when she needed it, but it suddenly appeared when she didn't need it. "Let Qinggu take a look at you later." Xiaochen looked at Jing Yu and said, "You don't look well." "No need." Jing Yu lowered her head helplessly and said, "I just feel a little tired. Let me eat something and I'll be fine." Xiao Chen frowned in dissatisfaction. He stared at Jing Yu and asked, "Are you really okay?" "Yes." Jing Yu leaned on Xiao Chen and said, "I just haven't had a good rest for so many days. I feel very tired." "You'll be fine once this is over." Xiao Chen helped Jing Yu to sit down. Qinggu and Ku'er were also very busy. Xiao Chen originally wanted Qinggu to take a look, but those who were seriously injured needed a doctor even more now. Although Xiao Chen felt sorry for Jing Yu, he knew the severity of the situation. He looked at Qing and Ku'er, who were busy, and turned to look at Jing Yu eating. She really looked fine. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Chapter 1700. Why did the people from the sound attack aristocratic family retreat so easily? Jing Yu frowned and said, "They left in such a hurry. Something must have happened." "Is there a need to say that?" Feng Ling bit down on the bandage and bandaged her arm. She turned to look at Jing Yu and said, "The situation just now should have been a sure win for the sound attack aristocratic family, but they left. Isn't it obvious?" Feng Ling shrugged casually and said, "Something must have happened in your nest." Feng Ling saw that Jing Yu still didn't understand, so she immediately smiled and shrugged her shoulders. "You mean something happened in Sand City?" Jing Yu frowned and asked when she heard Feng Ling's words. "Don't you think so?" Feng Ling shrugged and looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen. She said, "Let's put ourselves in their shoes. If we were in their shoes, wouldn't the situation be the same? If it weren't for the attack from the rear, would we give up on such a favorable situation? Besides," Feng Ling squinted her eyes and said, "We are not the only group that entered the desert. There are many others. Perhaps they have a complete map and have already arrived." "That's right." Jing Yu nodded slowly and said, "That's what I thought at the time, but I wasn't sure. It seems like it's much easier to explain now." Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and said, "The people from the sound attack aristocratic family obviously didn't notice our presence. Even if Sand City was attacked, they would definitely kill us first. But now that they have left, there is only one possibility. Those people from the sound attack aristocratic family have yet to discover us, or perhaps they think that we are not in this group. For us, this could be said to be a very good opportunity." "That's right." Feng Ling nodded happily and said, "What should we do now?" "There are too many wounded here. It's time for us to leave the team." Jing Yu said with a deep frown, What we need to do now is to shout loudly and arouse everyone's anger again. Jing Yu didn't even have time to sigh before she heard shouts from the other side. These people must be thinking of pocketing the treasures for themselves. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with astonishment. That's right. Otherwise, why wouldn't they let us in? If their previous words were said to make everyone doubt that these people from the musical attack aristocratic family would suddenly be so kind, then when they heard that they were pocketing the treasures, everyone was instantly enraged. I don't know if this was the doing of the sound attack aristocratic family when I met the sand wolf in the desert. Exactly. I've heard that the people from the sound attack aristocratic family can actually use sound to control beasts. Perhaps they were the ones who summoned the wolves. They want to bury us in this desert. Right. I remember that when I was killing that hungry wolf, I heard music. I heard it too. I thought I heard wrong, but now it seems like it's true. This one sentence led to thousands of words. Everyone spoke one sentence after another. This originally vague matter suddenly became incomparably clear. Everyone's eyes were slowly filled with astonishment. Chapter 1701. The faces of the aristocratic families turned ashen when they heard this. These people were talking about what they had done. The scene instantly became chaotic. In the midst of this chaos, a figure suddenly appeared on top of the city wall. That elegant figure was a man wearing a very casual cloth. Jing Yu looked at the jade flute in the man's hand and her heart trembled violently. Jing Yu had seen this person before. It was just a chance encounter, but Jing Yu remembered him very clearly. He was the person who had controlled her outside the Roman forest. The four people from the sound attack aristocratic family had played music together to control her. This person was one of the four people. How could Jing Yu dare to refuse them? The melodious sound of the flute resounded. The man's face was very calm. The clear sound of the flute spread very far. Jing Yu turned around slightly and looked behind her. Sure enough, this person had summoned the sand wolves. Countless sand wolves seemed to have been attracted by something as they charged over in a frenzy. The expression in Jing Yu's eyes changed slightly, but there was no movement. Interrogation Officer 1 and Baijio had not returned yet. The person in charge of the sound attack aristocratic family had not appeared. Now was not the time to expose herself. Jing Yu slowly clenched her fists and endured deeply. She slightly narrowed her eyes and calmly lowered her head. They're here. Kill them. Jing Yu looked at the sand wolves that were rapidly approaching. She unceremoniously started a massacre. When everyone saw this scene, they were even more certain that the sand wolves were summoned by the sound attack aristocratic family. Jing Yu and the others were happily killing, but Jing Yu's heart was sullen. She could only hope that Xing Yi and Baijio's speed would be faster. Looking at the fierce sand wolves, Jing Yu fiercely frowned. She was really annoyed by these damn wolves. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes as she looked at the increasing number of wolves from afar. Are there really no end to these wolves? Jing Yu couldn't help but be curious. How many wolves do you think there are in this desert? Just as Jing Yu was feeling vexed, she suddenly heard the sound of music. Jing Yu turned her head and saw that there was only one person on the wall. Now there were 3 more people, 2 men and a woman. Good heavens, they were all acquaintances. Now, all of them had appeared, right? The 4 people who had appeared were the 4 people who had played the flute to control him back then. After such a long time, seeing the 4 of them again, everything that he had experienced back then seemed to be deeply engraved on his body. Jing Yu's heart trembled uncontrollably when she saw the 4 of them. Everyone had actually come out? Furthermore, he seemed to be a little anxious. From the looks of it, something must have happened in Sand City. Needless to say, Interrogation Officer 1 and Baijio must have succeeded. As Jing Yu thought about it, a faint smile appeared on her lips. Now the situation was getting more and more difficult to control. The hungry wolves were forcing them again and again. It couldn't go on like this. Strange pupil. Jing Yu touched her eyes slightly. Thinking of the failure last time, Jing Yu said with a bitter smile, "This time, we can't mess around, we must be good." Jing Yu thought so and slowly closed her eyes. When she suddenly opened them, the bright light in her eyes flickered. The golden-green light expanded in an instant. The attacking wolves all stopped and retreated step by step. When the three people standing on the wall saw this scene, they instantly widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1702. I Can't Control the Wolf Pack. Villa Master G's hand that was holding onto the jade flute trembled violently as he spoke with some fear. Me too. The other two men beside him nodded in agreement. It's the other pupil. After a moment of silence, the bearded man said, The other pupil is really here. What do we do? Just as everyone was panicking, they suddenly heard the sound of a pipa. The sound was so clear that everyone turned to look and saw second aunt walking over. Her cold eyes were filled with murderous intent and her hands didn't stop playing the pipa. When everyone saw this, they all picked up their instruments and started playing again. This time, the sound was even more striking. Yi Shui is missing. Find the other pupil for me now. Second aunt's cold voice rang out. Everyone who was playing the pipa widened their eyes as if they had heard something terrifying. They paused for a moment and then started searching for the people below. Jing Yu could clearly feel the resistance and struggle in her mind. Jing Yu even had the thought of giving up, but she forced herself to hold it in. She couldn't give up. If she did, she would lose. She couldn't lose. Jing Yu took a deep breath and continued to persevere in silence. Xiao Chen slowly walked up and held Jing Yu's hand. Jing Yu's body trembled slightly. She turned to look at Xiao Chen and the control in her mind suddenly loosened. The people from the family of musical attacks seized control in an instant. Don't be afraid. Xiao Chen stared into Jing Yu's eyes and said, You are the most special existence. The people from the family of musical attacks can't control you. As long as you don't want to be controlled, you won't be controlled. You are a human. Xiao Chen looked deeply into Jing Yu's eyes and said, I am a human. Jing Yu's heart trembled as if something had suddenly awakened in her. Back then, because of Qin Bai's words, she had always been afraid. The other pupil was the beast pupil. That's right, beast eyes were indeed beast eyes. But I'm human. I'm Jing Yu. I'm a human being, not a beast. Jing Yu's eyes lit up slightly. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly felt a wind blade flying towards her. Jing Yu immediately tilted her head to avoid it, and the veil on her head suddenly slipped off. She turned her head to look at the city wall with her golden-green eyes filled with cold, killing intent. I've found the other pupil. The moment Jing Yu looked over, her second aunt, who was playing the pipa, had a faint smile in her eyes. She seemed to be very excited as she played the pipa loudly. The demonic music drilled into Jing Yu's ears. The sound was so familiar, and the feeling was so familiar. Jing Yu's face instantly paled. The people around the second aunt also noticed Jing Yu, and they suddenly increased the strength of their pipa. Everyone's eyes were filled with intense shock when they saw Jing Yu's golden-green eyes. Even Zhuji, who already knew, was shocked, not to mention Pang Shui, He Xiong, and the others who didn't know. The other pupil imperial concubine? Jing Yu's name might be known to a few people, but the other pupil imperial concubine's name made them tremble. Now that they saw Jing Yu's eyes, they were instantly stunned. Chapter 1703. They had been traveling with the Empress of different pupils the entire time? What the hell was going on? On the other side, Jing Yu held her head in pain. She knelt on the ground and couldn't move at all. She frowned fiercely. Her eyes were full of fear, as if she was extremely terrified. When Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu in such a state, his heart throbbed in pain. He wanted to help Jing Yu but didn't know what to do. Jing Yu. When Shangguan Linglan saw Jing Yu in such a state, his face turned pale. He suddenly stood up as if he had thought of something and rushed to Jing Yu. He shook Jing Yu's body forcefully and said, Look at me, Jing Yu. Look at me. Shangguan Linglan stared at Jing Yu and said, Back then, you were controlled and almost killed me. Do you still want to do the same? Jing Yu, look at me. Shangguan Linglan stared at Jing Yu's eyes and said, When his words reached Jingyu's ears, Jingyu paused for a moment and looked at Shangguan Linglong. Linglong. Jingyu pursed her lips tightly and called out. It's me. Shangguan Linglong stared at Jingyu and replied. He tightened his arms around Jingyu, but his expression was very calm. Jingyu slowly lowered her head and there was a strong struggle in her eyes. She sighed deeply and frowned as if she had thought of something. It was the scene outside the Roman forest. Jingyu could almost see the bloody wound on Shangguan Linglong's chest. She had stabbed him with her own hands. Could it be that he was going to let such a thing happen again? Definitely not. Jingyu's heart trembled violently. She slowly turned around and there was a strong light in her eyes. Linglong, I hurt you once and it will be a lifetime of pain. I won't hurt you a second time. Jingyu looked quietly at Shangguan Linglong and said, If it comes to that, I will kill myself first. That pair of golden green eyes flashed with an intense light at this moment. These words made Shangguan Linglong and Xiaochen tremble violently. At this moment, they looked at Jingyu with a different burning gaze. Sound attack family. Do you really think that you can control everything just because you have mastered the sound attack? Jingyu's eyes were filled with coldness. She looked at the city wall with an icy gaze. What's going on? Why isn't the other pupil affected at all? The woman's eyes were filled with shock. She had been a little agitated when she saw Jingyu hugging her head in pain. However, this situation didn't last for long. It made everyone tremble in fear. Why was the sound attack completely unaffected by the other pupil? Get out of the way. Jingyu turned around coldly and said to Pang Shuwei and the rest. Pang Shuwei and the rest were slightly taken aback when they heard Jingyu's words. They seemed to have thought of something as they pursed their lips and walked away. The music continued. Jingyu gritted her teeth and her golden green eyes shone brightly. Pang Shuwei and the rest stepped aside. Jingyu's eyes were filled with a faint light. She didn't seem to want to say anything. She lowered her eyes and said, This time, I will not back down. Chapter 1704. When Jingyu finished speaking, Jingyu looked at the people on the city wall with a scrutinizing look. She allowed the music to enter her ears and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly as she listened to her heartbeat. Different pupil, the one who controls them is not me. What a joke. These people are actually trying to control me. In this trance, Jingyu seemed to have heard the words of the fortune teller in the Tokyo Imperial City when she pretended to be blind in the endless stream of people. Victory lies in the heart. If one's heart is unwavering, what else is impossible? That's right. You can only control my thoughts and actions, but you can't control my heart. Jingyu's lips curled into a faint smile. Controlling beasts as kings can overturn the world. Haha. Jingyu suddenly laughed, as if she had understood something ridiculous. At this moment, a strong sense of contempt rose from Jingyu's heart. That was her disdain for the world. The people on the city wall looked at the sound attack family with disdain. A mere musical attack aristocratic family wants to control me? Jingyu sneered. She raised her hand slightly, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. They didn't know why, but when they saw Jingyu like this, they suddenly felt as if they were looking at a high and mighty king. His black robe was so noble, and his hair fluttered in the wind, causing one's heart to flutter along with his hair. Everything was so strange, but it also seemed so harmonious. The pair of golden green eyes shone brightly under the scorching sun. Jingyu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. While everyone was still captivated by Jingyu, they suddenly felt that there was a sudden change in the sky. The originally ferocious sand wolves seemed to have seen something terrifying and started to whimper. Then, when Jingyu turned to look, they lowered their noble heads as if they were paying respects to the highest king. You must have never seen such a scene. The sand wolves, lizards, and sand snakes that came out of nowhere in the darkness had all appeared at this moment. However, after they appeared, they seemed to have seen something incomparably terrifying. They trembled and crawled on the ground, not daring to move at all. The black mass of beasts that knelt down with their heads bowed was a shocking sight to behold. Perhaps it was because this scene was so shocking that the person playing on the city wall was so shocked by this scene that he didn't realize when he stopped playing. He looked at Jingyu, who was standing at the foot of the city wall, and his body trembled violently. How could this be? The woman's eyes were filled with astonishment. You have succeeded. Xiao Chen, who was standing beside Jingyu, didn't look the least bit surprised when he saw Jingyu's reaction. His pitch-black eyes were filled with gratification as he spoke faintly. Xing Er. Jingyu didn't know what the gratification in Xiao Chen's eyes meant, but before Jingyu could ask, she saw Xiao Chen call out to Xing Er. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.